Rita and Glenn met when they were 18. The girl was celebrating Christmas with her classmates in a rented apartment. That's where she met Glenn. He came with a friend to their company because he knew a guy from their college. As soon as Glenn arrived at the party, Rita caught his attention right away. He kept his eyes on her, and she noticed his attention. He didn't seem like much, but there was something about him that attracted her. They couldn't really talk that night, but a couple of weeks later, they got to know each other. It turned out that he had asked her friend for her phone number. Their first date was so ridiculous that they laughed about it for a long time, but at least Glenn managed to do something that the others couldn't. He won Rita over with his care and kindness, and she fell in love with him immediately. That's how they started dating. Glenn became her first love and literally carried her in his arms. They dated for several years, and then decided to move in together. The couple quietly discussed their future plans and had already decided a long time ago that they would definitely get married. However, Glenn didn't propose because he was waiting to finish his studies in another city. When he went to a session, he was away for a whole month, and they missed each other terribly. In the evenings, they would talk on the phone for hours, and when he came home, they couldn't bear to be apart. When school ended, Glenn immediately proposed to his beloved. By then, they had been together for 4 years. Some friends thought the wedding was because Rita was pregnant, but that was not the case. Their relationship was simply progressing to the next stage. After the wedding, the newlyweds went on a trip, and after they arrived, they started trying to have a baby. It didn't work out for about 6 months, but then Rita finally got pregnant. The pregnancy was not easy. Hormonal surges and nausea kept her awake, but they made it through together. 9 months later, Rita gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. She was determined to be the perfect mother, so she focused all her attention on the baby and didn't pay much attention to her husband. Glenn, on the other hand, was busy with 2 jobs and only came home to sleep. Naturally, this lifestyle took a toll on their relationship. Family life was new to them, and they struggled to find a balance. Their daughter was constantly crying and screaming, and Glenn couldn't sleep in the same room with them at night. He had to get up early for work, so he moved to another room for a while, which only further distanced them from each other. Rita loved her husband, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to be around him. After giving birth, the wife quickly returned to her former shape as she exercised daily. She was even more beautiful than before, but her relationship with her husband was not improving. Rita thought that Glenn had fallen out of love with her, but it was not so. He was madly in love with his wife, but now he was doubly responsible for his family because his wife did not work. He became moody, he could not relax, and he did not care enough to show his wife how much he loved her. After a while, the relationship between the spouses gradually began to improve. Her daughter was growing up and sleeping much better, but Rita had an uneasy feeling. She devoted all her time to the child because Glenn could not help her. He worked all the time, and she did everything at home alone. It was hard for her. She was completely exhausted. Rita realized she was on the verge of divorce, but she only held back because of her daughter. When the child was 2 years old, they put him in daycare. The wife happily went to work. It was as if Rita had been born again. She could feel men's eyes on her again. She participated in different events and in general had at least some kind of social life. She felt alive and real. She was sure that everything in their family would work out. She just needed time to come to her senses. And then came Christmas, which changed Rita's life forever. On the eve of the Christmas party, Rita had a big fight with her husband. He became insanely jealous of her about everything. But he was in no hurry to show his love. The continuous quarrels between them tired her, and she wanted to quickly leave home to relax and not hear the constant reproaches. Her husband saw that his wife was different. He himself didn't like it when he snapped at her because he was jealous, but he couldn't do anything about it. The constant fatigue and anger wore him down even more. At the Christmas party, Rita was having a lot of fun. She sang a lot and flirted with everyone. With her friend Lena, they were the most uninhibited people at the party, and they had a lot of fun. But soon, she felt sick, and Rita decided to take a cab home with her. It was after 1 o'clock in the morning. Glenn was at home with the baby. He was texting his wife angry messages, demanding in an orderly tone that she come home, but the evening had turned Rita's head so much that she just turned off the phone and went with her friend. They were met at the entrance by Vadim, her friend's husband. He took his wife in his arms and brought her home. Rita followed him, carrying her friend's bag and shoes. When VDM helped his wife undress and put Lena to bed, he came into the kitchen to see Rita. "Well, here we are again," the man grinned. The fact was that she and her friend's husband already knew each other. Once she and Lena were in a cafe and she felt sick from drinking, VDM took her away from the meeting. When Rita saw this man for the first time, she involuntarily invited her friend. Vadim looked as if he had stepped off the pages of a magazine. He was so handsome. She couldn't sleep a wink, and her soul demanded to continue with the party. As if sensing her mood, Vadim offered her a drink. She knew that it wasn't good for her husband and close friend to agree, but she couldn't help it. They closed the door to the bedroom so as not to wake Lena, and they continued partying in the kitchen. At one point, Rita began to think that Vadim had a crush on her. It didn't take long before she received confirmation of her thought. The man leaned towards her and kissed her. It was a new feeling for her. She hadn't kissed anyone but her husband in years, and kissing another man literally turned her head. Without breaking away from each other, they moved to the couch in the living room where it all happened. After the intimacy, Rita fell asleep for a while. When she woke up and realized she wasn't at home with her family right now, a chill ran down her spine. She realized she'd done something terrible. The woman quickly got dressed, grabbed her bag, and rushed out of her friend's apartment. It was already 4 o'clock. Vadim, at this time, had managed to move to his wife's bedroom. Already in the cab, Rita turned on her phone, and there were dozens of missed calls from her husband, and as many more messages. She didn't read them all. She understood that there was nothing but her husband's anger and spite, and she couldn't handle the messages. Tears welled up in her eyes. She sobbed, realizing that she wouldn't be able to deceive Glenn or pretend that nothing had happened. Her appearance wouldn't allow it. Her mascara and lipstick were smudged. It was obvious that she wasn't at the party. She tried to tidy herself up by wiping her face with wet wipes. By the end of the ride, she managed to calm down a little and pull herself together. When she entered the apartment, her husband came right out of the bedroom. He looked at Rita with undisguised fury. She told her husband that her phone had run out of battery. And then she felt sick, and her friend was helping her recover. It all seemed to be true. Rita was very pale and shaken. Glenn said they would talk in the morning, but for now, they had to go to bed. Rita exhaled. He didn't seem to suspect anything. But then her husband began to take off her coat and suddenly froze with wide eyes. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw the reason for his reaction. There was a large bruise on her neck, left by her lover's lips. Tears ran down Rita's cheeks automatically. She tried to say something, but Glenn didn't need words. She sat all night on the floor in the hallway, in complete darkness. She knew that now they were definitely going to get a divorce. And Glenn confirmed her hunches. He had walked silently from room to room since morning, and then he came out fully dressed with a suitcase in his hands and left, saying goodbye that he was going to file for divorce tomorrow. Just a month later, she was already a divorced woman, having lost the only man she loved because of her stupidity, and she didn't know where to start to try to get her life back on track.